If you want to understand what's really happening to America's legal system right now, you need to hear what I'm about to share with you. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell, because what took place today inside a Manhattan federal courthouse isn't just another court story. It's a major test of whether our justice system can still work when powerful people believe they're above the rules. Here's what went down. Around 11:47 this morning, while court was in session, 3 extremely expensive defense lawyers suddenly stood up from their seats, collected their belongings, and tried to leave the courtroom while the federal judge was still speaking. Let me repeat that so you fully understand this. These are lawyers who took an oath to respect the Constitution. They actually tried to walk away from their own client and abandon an active federal case simply because they disagreed with the decision. What the judge did next hasn't been seen in a federal court in more than 20 years. Let me walk you through exactly what happened, because every single detail is important here. The morning started with what people watching the trial called normal legal arguments. The prosecutors wanted to show certain financial records as evidence. The defense lawyers said no. This is typical in complex cases like this one, but you need to know what happened 2 days before this hearing. So something occurred that we only found out about because someone made a mistake. A secret court document was accidentally posted online to Pacer, which is the system where federal court records are stored. The document was visible for just 17 minutes before someone took it down. During those 17 minutes, legal researchers managed to save copies of the filing. What was inside it? Multiple people who saw the documents say the prosecutors had submitted new proof, showing encrypted messages between Trump and others involved in the case during a time period when the defense had previously claimed nobody was communicating at all. The documents reportedly included money transfers, adding up to $4.7 million, and what one person called the most damaging evidence ever gathered in a white-collar crime case. This morning, Judge Patricia Caldwell decided all 847 pages could be used as evidence. That's the moment everything exploded. And the main lawyer, Robert Sterling, stood up from the table. The court reporter, Maria Rodriguez, wrote down every single word. Reports suggest Sterling said something like, "Your Honor, this court has given up any pretense of being fair. We cannot and will not take part in what has become a rigged show trial." His colleague Jennifer Matthews reportedly added, "This is prosecutorial misconduct at its absolute worst, and we refuse to give it legitimacy by staying here." Then they headed toward the exit. Now, you need to understand something important about federal courtrooms. Judge Patricia Caldwell was appointed by President Reagan. She's been a federal judge for 31 years. Everyone knows her as someone who stays calm and measured. Defense lawyers usually feel lucky when they get assigned to her court because she runs things fairly. This judge watched 3 attorneys trying to abandon their client in the middle of a trial and said these exact words, which are now officially recorded. "Counselors, if you take one more step toward that door, I will hold you in criminal contempt and issue bench warrants for your immediate arrest." She then ordered United States Marshals to block every single exit. 6 armed federal marshals moved to all the doors within seconds. The standoff went on for exactly 7 minutes and 23 seconds. If this information is useful to you, smash that like button right now, because what comes next makes this story even more complicated. Here's what Judge Caldwell revealed that explains why Trump's lawyers were so desperate to get out of that courtroom. According to people who have direct knowledge of what happened, the judge announced that she had received a sealed ex parte submission from the Department of Justice that same morning. For anyone who doesn't know legal terms, let me explain why this is significant. Ex parte means only one side gets to see the submission. Federal judges almost never allow ex parte communications. They're used almost exclusively for issues involving national security or protecting witnesses. Judge Caldwell said officially that based on this filing, she was thinking about adding extra security measures and possibly separating the jury from outside contact. Every experienced criminal defense lawyer in America immediately knew what this meant. The prosecution has someone who's cooperating. Somebody close to Trump has decided to work with prosecutors. Former federal prosecutor Andrew McCarthy told Fox News within hours, when defense attorneys hear about a sealed ex parte submission in a case this big, they know the walls are closing in. Someone on the inside has turned and they're about to reveal information the defense never expected. The panic suddenly makes complete sense. Let me connect some important points here, because this is where the story becomes much more serious than just courtroom drama. Court records show that within 30 minutes of sitting back down after that 7-minute standoff, Sterling's team filed an emergency request for a mistrial. saying the judge was biased and prosecutors committed misconduct. They also filed a motion asking Judge Caldwell to remove herself from the case, arguing that her threat to arrest them showed she had personal hostility toward the defense. Do you understand what just happened? By creating this dramatic scene, they've basically manufactured reasons for multiple appeals. No matter how this trial ends, every legal expert looking at this situation agrees on one thing. This was a performance designed for people far beyond that courtroom. And here's the evidence suggesting this was planned ahead of time. Sources say Fox News had camera crews positioned outside the courthouse 45 minutes before the walkout happened. Several conservative commentators were posting on Twitter about judicial tyranny before news of the incident had even become public. How did they know something was going to happen? Subscribe right now if you want to follow where this investigation goes, because the implications are enormous. That sealed ex parte submission Judge Caldwell mentioned, Department of Justice sources indicate it relates to testimony scheduled for next Tuesday from someone identified only as Witness 14 in court documents. This person allegedly has direct knowledge of the financial transactions that form the center of the government's case. This individual has been kept in protective custody since October. The defense team's dramatic walkout happened exactly 96 hours before this testimony is supposed to begin. Is that just coincidence? The timing tells you everything. Legal experts are guessing about who Witness 14 might be. The main theory points to someone in Trump's inner financial circle, possibly a chief financial officer or controller who had direct access to the allegedly fraudulent transactions. Protective custody since October means someone with real safety concerns. That level of protection is usually reserved for cases involving organized crime or national security issues. After the standoff ended and the attorneys returned to their seats, Judge Caldwell made a statement that shocked the legal community. Given counsel's attempted abandonment of their client mid-trial, I am considering appointing shadow counsel to ensure the defendant's Sixth Amendment rights are protected. Shadow counsel means the court would assign backup attorneys to sit at the defense table, ready to immediately take over if the current team tries to withdraw again. It's basically the legal version of having backup actors in a theater production, except what's at stake is someone's freedom and potentially the integrity of America's justice system. The financial consequences are already becoming real. Sterling's law firm has charged over $12 million in legal fees, according to FEC filings. Late Friday evening, Bloomberg reported the firm had entered emergency discussions with its malpractice insurance company. Sources indicate the insurance company is worried about potential liability if the attempted walkout leads to a mistrial or successful appeal. Industry experts suggest the firm's insurance coverage could be at risk, potentially exposing the partners to personal financial responsibility. This would explain why senior partners were seen arriving at the Manhattan offices at 10 p.m. Friday night for what was described as an emergency crisis management meeting. Hit that like button if you understand why this matters beyond just this one case. Here's why what happened today threatens something much bigger than any single trial. If lawyers can simply walk out whenever decisions don't favor them, the integrity of our entire judicial system falls apart. Judge Caldwell seemed very aware of this when she stated, "The court will not permit counsel to manipulate proceedings through calculated disruptions." Such tactics, if successful, would encourage every losing party to manufacture a mistrial through counsel withdrawal. She's absolutely right. Once that door opens, any defendant facing conviction could tell their lawyers to storm out and claim the trial is unfair. In modern American legal history, there are only 3 similar instances of defense attorneys trying to abandon clients mid-trial in federal court. In 1978, mob lawyer Frank Riagano tried to walk out during the Santo Trafficante trial. He faced threats of losing his license to practice law. In 1992, during the BCCI banking scandal, 2 attorneys tried to withdraw but were forced to continue under threat of contempt. In 2009, Bernie Madoff's original legal team tried to quit 2 days into testimony but were required to stay. In all 3 cases, the defendants were ultimately found guilty. In all 3 cases, the attorneys faced serious professional consequences. The pattern is obvious. The political reaction was instant. Within minutes of the walkout attempt, Trump's Truth Social account posted, "My lawyers are fighters who won't stand for this rigged trial, judge threatening arrest, election interference." The post got over 2.3 million views in the first hour. Republican senators quickly responded. Senator Tom Cotton tweeted, "When judges threaten to arrest attorneys for defending their clients, we've entered Banana Republic territory." Senator Elizabeth Warren countered, "No one is above the law, including lawyers who try to sabotage judicial proceedings." But here's what's revealing. That A quick poll conducted Friday evening by Reuters Ipsos found that 67% of Americans disapprove of the lawyer's walkout attempt, including 48% of Republicans. 72% agreed that no one should be above the law, including former presidents. Even some of Trump's strongest legal supporters are having trouble defending this. Alan Dershowitz told Newsmax, "Walking out on a federal judge is simply indefensible. There are proper channels for addressing grievances. Abandoning your client mid-trial isn't one of them." When Alan Dershowitz won't defend you, you've crossed a line that most people didn't even know existed. Here's a detail that hasn't been widely reported. A paralegal working for the defense, speaking anonymously, revealed that Robert Sterling received a text message at 11:42 a.m., 5 minutes before the walkout. The message contained 2 words, "abort mission." The source claims the message came from a senior Republican strategist advising the team on public relations strategy. If this is true, it raises the possibility that the entire dramatic scene was orchestrated for political purposes rather than legal ones. Judge Caldwell appears to have reached a similar conclusion. In a written order issued Friday evening, she included this remarkable passage. "The court has reason to believe that certain theatrical elements of today's proceedings were coordinated with outside parties for purposes unrelated to the fair administration of justice. Any future attempts to transform these proceedings into political performance art will be met with the full range of sanctions available to this court, including, but not limited to, contempt charges, financial penalties, and referral to appropriate bar authorities." A federal judge is now officially stating she believes today's courtroom drama was political theater coordinated with outside parties. Let that sink in. After this morning's chaos, the U.S. Marshals Service raised courthouse security to its highest level. Additional metal detectors were installed. All visitors faced enhanced screening. NYPD deployed extra units around the perimeter. The FBI's New York field office reportedly placed agents on standby. This is not normal procedure. During the afternoon session, a note was passed to Judge Caldwell, causing an immediate private conference. Sources say the note came from court security, alerting the judge that several individuals connected to far-right militia groups had been identified near the courthouse. While no specific threat was confirmed, their presence added another dimension to an already tense situation. The judge reportedly warned both legal teams that any attempt to encourage public disorder would be met with the full force of federal law enforcement. The effects have extended far beyond American borders. European legal observers expressed shock at the courtroom drama. The UK's former director of public prosecutions commented, "In any common law jurisdiction, such behavior would result in immediate custody." French media ran headlines roughly translating to "American justice in chaos as Trump lawyers defy judge." Russian state media predictably seized on the story, framing it as evidence of institutional weakness in the United States. The fact that these attorneys felt bold enough to attempt such a move underscores a troubling erosion of respect for judicial authority that has implications far beyond this case. If you're still watching, subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to tell you is the most important part of this entire story. Sources close to Trump's inner circle now indicate serious discussions about replacing the entire legal team. Names being mentioned include some of the most controversial lawyers in the country, attorneys who have defended war criminals and terrorism suspects. This puts Judge Caldwell in an almost impossible position. If she allows Sterling's team to withdraw now, the trial could be delayed for months while new lawyers get up to speed. If she forces them to continue against their will, she creates massive grounds for appeal based on ineffective assistance of counsel. One former Supreme Court clerk called it brilliantly cynical. The defense has engineered a situation where the judge has no good options. Meanwhile, sources say the prosecution is preparing what's being called a nuclear option, asking the judge to revoke Trump's bail based on his lawyer's conduct. The argument? Anyone whose legal team attempts such disruption poses a flight risk and threatens the orderly administration of justice. While extreme and almost certain to fail, even attempting this move would generate headlines and shape public perception of what's actually happening in that courtroom. Consider the impact on the 12 citizens who will ultimately decide this case. While the jury wasn't in the courtroom during the walkout itself, the tension in the afternoon session was impossible to miss. Juror number 7, a retired teacher from Brooklyn, was observed repeatedly shaking her head during defense arguments. Juror number 3, a small business owner, appeared to be taking extensive notes whenever the judge addressed the defense team. Jury consultant Dr. Patricia Williams told CNN, "When jurors witness this level of conflict between a judge and defense attorneys, they often interpret it as consciousness of guilt. Why else would lawyers risk their careers unless they knew their client was in serious trouble? The defense may have won some procedural battles today, but they may have lost the war for the jury's perception. Monday morning, Judge Caldwell will rule on the defense team's motions for mistrial and removal. She will decide whether witness 14 will testify as scheduled. If Sterling's team attempts another disruption, she has made clear they will face immediate arrest. The U.S. Marshals have reportedly been briefed on arrest procedures for attorneys, a step that sources say has not occurred in a federal courthouse in living memory. Consider the timing of all of this. With just 11 months until the 2024 election, every day this trial continues is a day Trump cannot fully focus on campaigning. Some political analysts argue the walkout was designed specifically to force a mistrial, pushing any retrial past the election. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy that treats the courtroom as just another political battlefield. Judge Caldwell appears determined not to let that happen. Sources familiar with her thinking say she's prepared to hold court sessions 6 days a week if necessary to keep the trial on track. She's also reportedly considering limiting media access if she believes coverage is encouraging theatrical behavior. What we witnessed today wasn't merely a legal maneuver. It was an attempt to transform American courtrooms into political theater. When attorneys feel empowered to walk out on federal judges without consequence, when defendants treat criminal trials like campaign events, when justice becomes indistinguishable from reality television, we have crossed a line that our constitutional system may not be designed to handle. Even Republicans are beginning to distance themselves from these tactics. Senator Mitt Romney issued a statement. Respect for our judicial system is fundamental to our democracy. While everyone deserves zealous representation, attempting to flee a federal courtroom crosses every conceivable line. Even Senator Josh Hawley, typically a staunch Trump defender, emphasized that attorneys must follow proper procedures when asked about the incident. When you start losing the Josh Hawleys of the world, your legal strategy has fundamental problems. The real damage here extends far beyond any verdict in this case. Every American deserves competent counsel and a fair day in court operating within established rules. When those rules break down, when lawyers literally attempt to flee rather than face adverse rulings, it signals that our system can be manipulated by anyone with sufficient resources and audacity. That's not justice. That's chaos wearing a suit and billing by the hour. The stakes go far beyond one trial or one defendant. If Trump's team succeeds in turning criminal proceedings into political circuses, every wealthy defendant in America will be tempted to attempt the same tactics. Imagine trials where any well-resourced defendant can instruct their lawyers to walk out whenever a ruling doesn't favor them, where proceedings become performance art for social media rather than genuine searches for truth, where judges must threaten arrest simply to maintain basic courtroom order. That's not a justice system. That's the end of the rule of law as a functioning principle. The question now is whether Judge Caldwell can restore order, whether Trump's legal team will continue their disruptive tactics, and whether our judicial system can survive this unprecedented assault on its core principles. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on because this story is far from finished. When witness 14 takes the stand, when Judge Caldwell rules on the mistrial motion, when we finally learn who sent that abort mission text, you'll want to know immediately. Hit that like button. Leave a comment telling me what you think happens next. And share this video with anyone who cares about whether American democracy can survive what's being done to it. This isn't just about one trial or one defendant anymore. It's about whether we still believe, genuinely, functionally believe, that no one in this country, no matter how wealthy, no matter how powerful, no matter how politically connected, is above the law. The answer to that question will shape this country for generations. I'll see you Monday when the judge rules.